재밌겠다, 너. 은근히 맞추기 어려운데, 예쁜 건 인정.
Lovely viewers. Today we're talking about Lee Min-ho's Christmas message, the one that sparked whispers across social media, not because of what he said loudly, but because of what he seemed to say quietly. Many fans believe this message was never meant for the public eye at all, but only for his family, and once you look closely, it's hard not to feel the same way. As the Christmas season arrived, timelines everywhere filled with sparkling decorations, celebrity greetings, and polished holiday photos. Fans expected Lee Min-ho to do what he has done in previous years. A warm but general message, a smile, a thank you to supporters, something elegant and safe. Instead, what appeared felt different from the very first second. The tone was softer, pacing slower. There was no dramatic background music, no heavy promotion, no obvious attempt to trend. It felt almost like walking into a room quietly and realizing someone is already there, speaking from the heart, not to an audience, but to people he trusts. What struck fans immediately was how intimate the message felt. His words were simple, but they carried weight. He spoke about warmth, about being grateful for togetherness, about protecting what truly matters when the world becomes too loud. These are phrases that celebrities often use, yes, but coming from him in that moment, they felt less like a script and more like a reminder. A reminder you give to people who already know your story, who have lived through your hard seasons with you, who don't need explanations. Many viewers noticed that he didn't mention projects, upcoming dramas, or future plans. There was no promotional angle hidden between the lines. Instead, there was reflection. He talked about time passing, about learning what truly stays, about cherishing moments that don't make headlines. Fans who have followed Lee Min-ho for years know how rare it is for him to strip things down like this. He is known for his professionalism, his control, his ability to keep personal matters private. That's exactly why this message felt so revealing. As the video circulated, comments began to change in tone. At first, fans reacted with excitement, wishing him Merry Christmas, sending hearts and festive emojis. But as more people replayed it, slowed it down, read between the lines, the mood shifted. People began to say things like, "This feels personal," and "I feel like we weren't supposed to hear this," and "It sounds like he's talking to his parents, not us." That's when the conversation really began. One detail that fans couldn't ignore was his expression. There was a gentleness in his eyes that felt different from his usual public appearances. Not sad, not overly joyful, but calm, grounded, and deeply present. The kind of look someone has when they are surrounded by people who love them unconditionally, even if those people aren't physically in the room. It felt like the kind of expression you carry when you've already said the important things privately, and what you're sharing publicly is just an echo. Some fans speculated that the message may have been recorded originally as a private family greeting and later adapted, or perhaps shared accidentally in a form that was too raw. Others believe it was intentional, but still not meant to be decoded by millions. There's a difference between sharing something personal and inviting people to analyze it. This felt like the former. It felt like a window opened briefly, not an invitation to step inside. As viewers, many of you may have felt that strange emotional pull while watching. That quiet sense of warmth mixed with restraint. It's the same feeling you get when you overhear a loved one speaking sincerely, not performing, not protecting an image, just being. And that's where the power of this message lies. Not in grand declarations, but in subtle honesty. Lee Min-ho has always been careful about drawing a line between his public persona and his private life. Over the years, he has spoken about the importance of family, about grounding himself, about staying human in an industry that often demands constant performance. This Christmas message felt like the embodiment of those values. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't about validation. It was about connection. Many fans began to reflect on what Christmas means beyond gifts and celebrations. His message quietly redirected attention to presence, to gratitude, to shared silence. Some viewers even commented that they felt emotional without fully understanding why. That's usually a sign that something is real. When words don't overwhelm you, but they stay with you. Interestingly, There was also an absence in the message that spoke volumes. He didn't address fans directly in the usual way. There was no "thank you for supporting me this year" front and center. That absence made people feel like observers rather than participants. And instead of feeling excluded, many felt honored, as if being allowed to witness something private was a gift in itself. This sparked a deeper conversation among fans about boundaries and respect. Some reminded others that even if the message was shared publicly, it still deserved to be treated gently. Not every emotion needs to be dissected. Not every pause needs a theory. Sometimes the most loving response is simply to receive something quietly and let it be. For longtime supporters, this message added another layer to their understanding of Lee Min-ho as a person. Not just an actor, not just a star, but someone who values intimacy, who speaks differently when he's not trying to impress. It reminded people that behind the polished roles and red carpets is someone who goes home, who has family traditions, who experiences Christmas not as a spectacle, but as a moment of rest. As the days passed, the message continued to circulate, but the commentary softened. Less speculation, more appreciation. Fans began sharing how the message made them think about their own families, their own quiet Christmas moments. In that way, the message achieved something rare. It connected without trying to. It resonated without demanding attention. And maybe that's why it feels like it was meant only for his family. Because it carried the kind of truth that doesn't need an audience. The kind of truth that exists whether anyone is watching or not. The kind of words you say when you're not worried about how they'll be received, only that they're sincere. Lovely viewers, as you reflect on this moment, ask yourself how it made you feel. Did it remind you of someone? Did it slow you down? Did it make you think about the people you want close during the holidays? That's the quiet power of authenticity. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And those who are meant to hear it do. As we wrap up this story together, let's carry that same gentleness forward. Let's appreciate the message not as content to consume, but as a moment to respect. Sometimes the most meaningful things shared by public figures are not performances, but glimpses. And when those glimpses appear, they remind us that at the heart of every celebrity is a human being, just hoping for warmth, understanding, and a peaceful Christmas with the people who matter most. And as we stay in this gentle space together, lovely viewers, there's something even deeper that begins to unfold the longer you sit with a feeling of that Christmas message. After the initial warmth settles, after the replay button stops being pressed, what remains is not curiosity but recognition. Recognition that moments like this are becoming rare, not just among celebrities but among all of us. Moments where words are spoken without performance, without defense, without expectation. Many fans later admitted that they didn't even realize they were holding their breath while watching him speak. It was only after the video ended that they exhaled. That alone says so much. When someone speaks from a place of truth, it doesn't excite you in a loud way, it steadies you. And steadiness is something so many people are craving, especially during the holidays when emotions tend to surface quietly. Some viewers began sharing personal stories in the comments, not about Lee Min-ho, but about their own families, about parents they miss, about siblings they haven't spoken to in years, about the small traditions that only exist within the walls of home. His message unintentionally opened a door for others to step into their own reflections. That's the mark of sincerity. It doesn't point back to itself, it points outward, toward shared humanity. There was also something incredibly respectful about how he chose his words. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that begged for sympathy or applause. Just acknowledgement. Acknowledgement that life moves quickly, that people grow, that priorities shift, and that at the end of the day, what grounds us is not what we achieve, but who we return to. That's not something you say to impress fans. That's something you say to people who have known you long before fame entered the picture. And let's talk about silence for a moment, because his pauses mattered just as much as his words. Those brief moments where he didn't rush to fill the space, where he allowed stillness to exist. In media, silence is often edited out, feared, or replaced. But in real life, silence is where meaning settles. It felt like he was allowing himself to sit in that meaning, even if only for a few seconds. Some fans pointed out that the setting itself felt understated. No overwhelming decorations. No extravagant display. Just warmth. Just calm. That choice alone communicated something powerful. It said, "This moment is not about being seen." And in a world where visibility often equals value, that message quietly challenges everything. As days went by, some fans stopped calling it a Christmas greeting altogether. They began referring to it as a message. Plain and simple. Not a post. Not content. Just a message. And there's something deeply human about that distinction. Messages are sent with intention. They have recipients. Even if others happen to read them, the heart of the message belongs somewhere specific. For those who have followed Lee Min-ho's journey for a long time, this moment felt like growth made visible. Not growth in status or success, but growth in presence. In knowing what to protect. In understanding that not everything meaningful needs to be explained. That maturity resonated strongly with older fans, with parents, with people who have lived enough life to know that peace is louder than noise. Interestingly, younger fans also connected to it, but in a different way. Many commented that it made them think about slowing down, about calling home, about noticing the people who support them quietly. That cross-generational connection is rare. It shows that authenticity doesn't belong to a specific age group. It belongs to anyone willing to be honest. There was also an unspoken lesson in boundaries. By sharing something that felt deeply personal without opening it up for clarification, he reminded everyone that access does not equal entitlement. You can appreciate something without owning it. You can feel close to someone's humanity without crossing into their private world. That balance is delicate, and he maintained it beautifully. Some fans wondered if this was his way of protecting his family, of drawing a soft line that says, "This part of me exists, but it doesn't belong to the public." And if that's the case, then the message becomes even more meaningful. Because protecting what you love doesn't always require silence. Sometimes it requires speaking gently, carefully, and then stepping back. Lovely viewers, think about how often we overshare without meaning to, or undershare out of fear. His message seemed to sit right in the middle. Honest but not exposed. Warm but not inviting intrusion. That's a skill many of us are still learning. As the holiday season continued, the message faded from trending lists, but it didn't fade from memory. And maybe that's exactly where it belongs. Not as a viral moment, but as a quiet one. The kind you remember when the decorations come down and real-life resumes. The kind that lingers when the noise returns. In the end, what makes this Christmas message so special is not the mystery around who it was meant for, but the clarity of how it was meant to feel. It wasn't meant to excite. It wasn't meant to convince. It was meant to connect, privately, sincerely, and without pressure. And perhaps that's the most beautiful takeaway for all of us. As we move forward, as we celebrate, as we communicate with the people we love, we can choose intention over performance. We can choose meaning over reach. We can choose to speak in ways that nourish rather than impress. And in that piece, lovely viewers, something else begins to take shape. Something softer and yet stronger than any headline could ever capture. It is the realization that moments like this don't demand interpretation. They invite presence. When Lee Min-ho shared that Christmas message, intentionally or not, he offered a rare pause in a fast-moving world. And pauses are where understanding quietly grows. After peace comes clarity. Not the kind that answers every question, but the kind that gently rearranges priorities. Many fans later said they found themselves returning to the message not to analyze it again, but to feel grounded. Some watched it late at night, others early in the morning when the world was still quiet. That choice alone tells you everything. This wasn't content for distraction. It was something people turned to when they wanted calm. And calm, especially during the holidays, can be deeply emotional. For some, Christmas is joyful. For others, it carries absence. Lee Min-ho's message didn't force happiness. It didn't insist on celebration. Instead, it acknowledged warmth without denying complexity. That balance allowed everyone to feel included, regardless of what their season looked like. It didn't say, "Be happy." It said, "Be present." There is something powerful about a public figure choosing not to perform joy, but to honor sincerity instead. It subtly gives permission to others to do the same. To not decorate every feeling. To not pretend everything is perfect. To simply exist as they are, with gratitude where it fits and quiet where it belongs. Some fans noticed that after this message, Lee Min-ho's public presence remained intentionally minimal. No over-explaining. No follow-up clarification. That silence wasn't avoidance. It was consistency. It reinforced the idea that the message had already said everything it needed to say. In a culture that often demands constant updates, choosing stillness is a statement in itself. This also opened up a wider conversation about how we, as audiences, engage with celebrities. Do we listen to understand or to consume? Do we allow room for humanity, or do we immediately look for meaning that serves our curiosity? His Christmas message gently challenged that habit. It asked nothing from viewers except respect. Lovely viewers, think about how rare it is to witness someone share something that feels complete on its own. No cliffhanger, no tease, no invitation to speculate. Just a moment offered fully and then released. That's emotional maturity. And it's something many of us are learning to practice in our own lives. Some fans even described the message as feeling protective. Not in a closed-off way, but in a nurturing way. Like a blanket wrapped around something precious. It felt like Lee Min-ho was acknowledging the importance of his inner circle without naming them, honoring them without exposing them. That kind of love doesn't announce itself. Simply exists. As time goes on, this message may not be remembered as one of his most talked about moments, but it will likely be remembered as one of his most felt moments. And those are the ones that endure. The ones that don't need replay counts to measure their impact. The ones that live quietly in memory. What's especially touching is how many fans responded not with demands, but with gratitude. Gratitude for being trusted even indirectly. Gratitude for being reminded that behind the roles and accolades is a man who values home, family, and emotional safety. That mutual respect between artist and audience is something beautiful, and it's built slowly, through moments exactly like this. And perhaps that's the final gift of this Christmas message. Not the words themselves, but the atmosphere they created. An atmosphere of gentleness, of boundaries honored, of connection without possession. It reminds us that love doesn't need to be loud to be real. So as we continue forward, lovely viewers, let this story linger not as a mystery to solve, but as a feeling to carry. Let it remind you to choose your words carefully, to speak with intention, and to remember that some messages are sacred because of who they are meant for, not how many people hear them.